the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship.
The golf has been mesmerizing.
They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go!
That's what champions do.
What's going on, football fans? Welcome into Pro Football Today. It's time for the pregame show. I gave you all the hype yesterday about the fact that football is back. It's week 1, and we've got another game underway tonight, but not here in the States. No, we are going down south to Brazil to see what the energy brings tonight between the Packers and the Eagles, and I'm pretty hyped for this matchup. You got two teams that made some quality moves in the offseason, yet there's still some question marks when it comes to both of these defenses, but when I brought the heat, I meant two offenses that can probably fire off some rounds. So we've got a lot to get into. And guys, I'm excited to let you know that I'm not getting into it alone. I get to be in the presence of three gentlemen that are going to help us walk through some of the most exciting bets, maybe some prop king stuff, as well as first half things. I'm feeling confident about where I laid tonight. I know what I did last night. We're not going to talk about it, but I should welcome in the guys. I should more specifically say, Benvenido, como va, you guys, because it's time to get our Portuguese on.
Can we go to Brazil? Is that on the table? Is that on the expense reports?
It is.
Wow.
Nobody asked what studio I was in either, so for all y'all know. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
But
right.
Adam is not a phantom tonight. He's actually here and present, so we'll start with checking in with him. A non-paranormal activity. You're coming in hot. We're talking about this game going down, but Adam, how's it going so far with the connection, life, Friday night?
All the above, just terrific. Although I'm a little hungry, I could use some dinner, but I guess after the show, we'll give that about 90 minutes or so. I'm just excited for this football game. I was on with Joe Ranieri for Game Time Decisions right before this, and just talking about the enthusiasm around football, right? I mean, all of us. There are 5 straight days of real, actual, meaningful football between primetime kickoff to begin the NFL season last night, college on Saturday, all the way through Monday Night Football. We just have college 5 straight days or football 5 straight days, an opportunity for us to just bet like crazy, be it on prop sides, totals. We can parlay. I mean, I parlay so hard, university. I'm ready to go. I'm like Cam Stewart. Every time I see something, I'm just, yep. Yep. Just
At it.
firing away, hoping for the best results. A degenerate, really, if we're putting it in its politest terms. Last night was so much fun, though, and generally it was good to me. Thank you, Chiefs. So let's hope the Eagles, as Sharapan here is donning all the colors. Hopefully it's green for everyone if the green can be winners tonight.
We're going to have an added
That
on with
green,
Adam
not the
Talley.
Packer green.
Well, that just, I guess that more importantly brings us to Dave, which we've seen him have a running theme here. Whatever hat he's wearing for the night tends to kind of lean a little crazy, but he said he's not picking a side. I voted that he should have showed up in all black, but Dave, since you didn't want to show up in all black tonight, you brought the pop of color outside of my color. How are you feeling?
Well, first of all, the pink looks great. And if I'd have known you were wearing pink, I would have worn pink as well. But I went with the green. Last night, I wore black, and I did wear the black hat with the Chiefs logo on it, and it won. But, you know, after all these years in the book and working around all these people and all that other stuff, this is always one of those situations you got to keep them guessing. So just because I come on wearing the Eagles stuff doesn't mean that I like the Eagles, at least not tonight. Although I think the Eagles is the side tonight. I really, really do.
I was going to say, it's kind of ominous for a second.
Yeah, I don't have any Packers stuff. I never did. It's nothing personal. I have one Packers hat, but I haven't worn it for a while because they haven't had much hope. But now they have a lot of love and Jordan love and everything working good. I worked on that one, boys and girls.
I got a cheese head you could borrow, Sharapan. You want it?
Do you have one? I don't have.
Oh, I have. I could get up and get it. I don't want to wear it because I'm pro Eagles tonight. It feels like bad juju if I go and put a cheese head on.
This is fantastic. Yeah. So you've got one guy picking a side. You've got, well, you're wearing a side. You're not picking a side. And then Tom kind of already mentioned earlier, but we are going to check in with him in his flashy shirt that, you know, he's not picking a side either, but you showed up with a nice shirt on. So that still works. That might lean towards the lovable Jordan Love tonight. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, thank you. I am not on a side or total tonight. I will say the same thing I said last night. I'll probably be looking to take a live over, especially if the game starts a little bit slow. If I can get it around 41 or so, 42, that'd be great if I get the live. I have a few props I'm looking at tonight from both sides. I think we are in for a good amount of offense. I just don't know if it's coming super early. So I'm ready to roll for just another exciting game tonight.
All right. Well, like the boys said, it is time to roll, and we love to get into some prop bets. But I'm gonna set the foundation with this, gentlemen. I found out earlier that the Packers are not only the away team, but they kind of have some monumental strides ahead of them because they've got a pretty gnarly commute to get to Corinthians Arena. I'm talking 1.5 to 2 hours. Some people even compared it to high school, packing them up in the bus, shipping them off to the stadium, and getting things going. So, with that in mind, with the excitement around what the Packers offense will deliver, health being primarily on their side finally, and then you've got Hurts, who should get better play calling, who should have some alleviating, who also has a running back that everybody wants to get excited about. We got to get into some yardage. We've got to talk some props. We got to see if anyone's going to be impacted by this hurdle through the bus, 1.5 to 2 hours to get to the field to have a showdown. Mind you, Tom will probably love this if he hasn't looked it up already, because I'm sure he has. You've got a soccer field that these guys are playing on, which could impact traction, which could impact the power, which could impact body weight, and a few other things. So I'm going to throw it over to Tom first. You got any prop bets that you're loving tonight, maybe starting in that quarterback head-to-head room?
For the quarterbacks, you know, when I look at a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, it continues to be the rushing plus passing market. That's generally the best spot to go. You know, if they fall behind, we could see a good pass rush from Green Bay that forces him out of the pocket. He piles up some easy rushing yards there. And then, you know, if the offense operates as it should be, especially with Kellen Moore now under control as the OC, we know what they can do with the wide receivers, and that's what they should be flexing along with Dallas Goedert, Saquon coming out of the backfield. So I'm always on board with Hurts. He can be viable in all aspects of the game, whether they're leading, whether they're trailing, it doesn't really matter. So Hurts, rushing plus passing combined.
Adam, you seem to have a lot of energy in response to that opening. I wasn't sure if it was the bus that got you. I wasn't sure what part of it.
It's the bus. Are you kidding me? They got to travel 1.5 to 2 hours by bus. These 350-pound men all cramped up on a bike. My God. I thought the NFL took care of these people, puts them in the 5-star hotels, the classiest of accommodations. I don't care that it's a nice bus and it's not like a school bus. I understand that. Fact of the matter is, a 90-minute to 2-hour pregame ride just to get yourself there, to have to go and stretch out all over again and try and get yourself comfortable there. Mike, I'm going to hang on. Are we going to break so I can put more money on the Eagles? This is a terrible situation for the Packers tonight. My goodness.
You know, I mentioned high school. I remember my brother, 6'2", 275 pounds, and his worst nightmare is when it was time to pack it in on the bus. Did it impact his play? Not so much, but you know, you get groomed and you get used to this kind of situation. So we'll see how it impacts these guys. Maybe it shouldn't affect the arms too much, which is why we're looking at Love and Hurts. But we do have under a minute. Dave, how do you feel about the bus situation and these guys trucking into the field?
It's crazy because I'm watching my line screen right now. It's like I'm sitting in a book working without actually having to take the bets, and the line's coming down. There's a real East Coast, West Coast bias going on right now. In the desert, it's down to 1. Philly is only a 1-point favorite. The total's actually going up. Talked to a guy today on Bostonian versus the book who was down in Brazil. He said the field is in perfect condition, absolutely perfect. Called it a fast track. So I think people are getting that information and playing over. The longest bus ride I ever took in college to play a hockey game was an hour and a half, but we got to go to sleep after that and then play in the morning. We didn't get out and have to go play a football game or anything. That's it. That might affect people's bets.
All right, well, we'll see. We got more action and information for you guys, but stick with us because we got a quick break here on Pro Football Today, the pregame show. We got to get into these props as well other information. And Dave's clearly well connected down in Brazil, so go nowhere after this quick break.
Buy or sell, Anthony Richardson will be a top 7 fantasy quarterback this season. We're keeping this realistic here. We know that nobody would think that he'll be in the top 3, probably not even the top 5. How about top 7, George? Buy or sell?
You know, if he stays healthy, top 5 is not out of question here at all. He's a running quarterback. We know how valuable they can be. My worry is going to be what I mentioned when we talked about the Indianapolis Colts. Boy, man, if Pittman were to go down, there's not a lot to throw. He'll be running for his life half the time there. I like Richardson a lot. Small sample size of what we saw of what he's going to be. I played the 5 games last year before the injury here. So over a longer season, we'll see if he gets to catch up to him, what he can do. He's going to have to prove he can throw the ball to be down the field here. I'm going to buy this. All right, I want to buy on Anthony Richardson. I want him to be that guy because I want to see the excitement that he can bring. I think, smart money might say go the other way because there's so many quarterbacks in that tier that, hey, he could have a good year and still not finish top 7. That being said, I think he will show just like he did last year. He's going to be dynamic. I'm buying top 7.
Yeah, it reminds me so much of Cam Newton in the early days too. I'm going to sell on this. I think it's too high. I think most leagues take away points for interceptions. If that's the case, I think his numbers are going to be 20-something touchdowns, 15, 16-something interceptions. That's going to negate some stuff. Yes, he will run. Can he play an entire season? Still very questionable for me. I have him as the 9th best fantasy quarterback at the end of the season, just outside the top 7. So I'm going to go sell on that.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, pregame style. And it's not just me, Kasey Hudson, here on SportsGrid TV. No. For the Friday night fun, we have to have Tom Vecchio. We have to have Adam Kaufman. We have to have Dave Sharapan, and we have to continue this bus ride conversation because we got to see who it's going to impact tonight. Apparently, if they get some rest, if they get to doze off for a hot second, there's probably not going to be too much to be concerned about. So we kind of just realize arms aren't going to be an issue. The quarterback should be fine. If we have anything we feel strongly about, we will circle back to that. But gentlemen, I think you guys would agree. Probably one of the bigger headlines and conversations around tonight's matchup are the additions in the running back room. We got Saquon Barkley over for the Eagles, and we got Josh Jacobs for the Packers, and two guys that can alleviate their quarterbacks in a number of ways. Adam, I'm going to throw this one to you. Is there anything sticking out to you when it comes to the running back room head-to-head matchup?
Boy, when it comes head-to-head, I would have to look to Saquon Barkley. He is playing behind the best offensive line that he has ever played behind in his time in the NFL, an absolutely elite offensive line at that. So it's not just, clowning on the Giants or something like that. This is a legitimate offensive line that the Eagles have there in Philadelphia, or I guess tonight in Brazil. And so he is going to flourish. He is set up for a great situation. Couple that with the fact that the Eagles have so many weapons in that passing game and a really talented quarterback too. It just seems like I'm crapping all over the Giants, but when you're comparing Jalen Hurts to Daniel Jones, or you're comparing A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and obviously it goes on. You start to get to the tight end and Dallas Goedert and on to the likes of like Darius Slayton and guys along those lines. I mean, there's no comparison. And so it's nice that Barkley doesn't have to be a focal point, doesn't have to be a guy that, worries about being taken out of the game because they're just going to free up everybody in the passing game. Hurts is going to be able to distribute this ball wherever he wants against, again, a somewhat lesser than defense on the other side. It sets up really well for Saquon to, again, I think have a really solid night. I think his numbers are modest when it comes to the rushing game, the receiving game, but most notably, I would take a look at the combined prop guys. You can still go under 90 yards, rushing, receiving, total yardage there for Saquon Barkley. I mean, he could run for a 50-yard gain and take it to the house for a touchdown, whatever it may be. So I just think he's going to be involved all over the place. It's a tough matchup on the other side for Josh Jacobs, and I don't have expectations that are nearly that high.
I like that you point that out. I love the combinations. Tom and I talked about that quite a bit yesterday, but Tom did kind of reel me in a little bit, and if I would have jumped on it a little sooner, I probably would have not been in a bad mood at the end of the night. But Henry didn't get too many touches on the ball. Obviously, him being a new factor there, we thought that there was going to be this explosive guy coming on the scene, showing that he can be the workhorse for his team. So how do we edge this? How do we monitor not getting too excited, getting too high, getting too low when it comes to Barkley being in the mix and or Jacobs in the mix? Keep this in mind. Barkley within the 15-yard line is very, very formidable. You're talking about somebody who's targeted 80% of the time, and that's just rushing, or the handoff, I should say. In terms of receiving yards, you're looking at somebody that they go to quite a bit, and we know Hurts is either going to want to go for the tush push or hand it off to Barkley. What are your thoughts, Tom?
Well, when it comes to Barkley and that offensive line, like Adam said, this is probably it is the best spot he's ever been in from a rushing perspective. So seeing him have an explosive, or more importantly, probably an efficient night on the ground or an efficient year on the ground is something that I think we all should be expecting. The 16.5 line for him for the receiving is probably what I'm most interested in. I think we will see a nice back and forth game as, the spread is tightening. As Dave said, it's getting down to 1 point in some places. If we're going to see a back and forth game with great conditions, we can see him have a very efficient night not only on the ground, but in the air. It's only 16.5 yards. So I'm certainly on board with that.
I'm a fan of it. Dave, I got to get your opinion on this. I was fading some of the wide receivers because Jacobs' now involvement with the Packers offense, because I'm thinking to myself, you want to keep Love healthy. You want to make sure you don't wear out his arm because they've got their eyes focused on playoffs and they feel confident that it's coming down the stretch. How can they utilize Jacobs, and does anything stand out for you in the prop markets or in the totals market?
Well, when you look at the prop markets and you're talking about Love, I immediately went to it and said, I wonder what his number is if they even have it double digits. And it's not. It's 9.5, 8.5 in a couple other places. So they don't want him running and moving getting out of the pocket and keeping the ball. So hopefully he does that. He gets down and slides and all that. But like Hurts's number is 40.5. So the game is going to be so different for both teams. he's going to be a big part of the rushing offense. And, I mean, I looked at that number and went, if the Eagles are going to win, he's probably going over that total. And the good thing about betting the quarterback rushing yardage, which, again, not a lot of people look to do right away, is that one play or two plays, he can break one and, you're almost there. So I'm thinking Hurts over, Love under on those rushing yards props.
Funny enough, that almost sounded like a tennis reference as the U.S. Open's got their semis or their basically the finals going on. Leave it to me to bring in a tennis reference, though. I will say this, and Tom, you could probably call me on this one. Yesterday, I was gauging Lamar Jackson's rushing yards, and then halftime came around, and then it was like, ooh, what do we do with this? And Tom walked me through it. Tom, is the rushing yards for Jalen Hurts probably something worth gauging throughout the game, maybe especially after you see a fiery first half?
It will be, and it also depends, I would say, primarily on the game script, because if they're out in front and they're up by 2-3 scores, they're just going to hand the ball off and he won't be in a position to run. He's in a position to run generally when he has to drop back and then is forced out of the pocket, which is generally when they're trailing. So if they're down by multiple scores at halftime, that's probably time to get in live for Hurts. Like most quarterback rushing props, for the most part, are game script dependent. And then we could say the same thing about a lot of players, but Hurts specifically, they're not going to put them in harm's way and have too many design run plays if they're out in front by 3-4 scores, whatever it might be.
I agree. Well, it seems like we've got a good pulse on what to expect out of the quarterback room, maybe even the running back room. We've got two different scripts, and we'll see how that plays out tonight. But after we get back from a break, we do have to talk about the wide receivers. There's one in particular that I'm quite excited about. You've probably heard me mention his name a couple of times. No, not in name-dropping fashion, but I did see him at the Senior Bowl. I was high on his career in the NFL, and he has overcome a number of injuries, but he's finally supposed to be healthy and be a weapon for Jordan Love specifically. So don't go anywhere, because we got to break down the wide receiving room, excuse me, and we got to see if we can get some sellies out of these guys. So stick with us here on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid TV as we go to a break.
Buy or sell, Anthony Richardson will be a top 7 fantasy quarterback this season. We're keeping this realistic here. We know that nobody would think that he'll be in the top 3, probably not even the top 5. How about top 7, George? Buy or sell?
If he stays healthy, top 5 is not out of question here at all. He's a running quarterback. We know how valuable they can be. My worry is going to be what I mentioned when we talked about the Indianapolis Colts. Boy, man, if Pittman were to go down, there's not a lot to throw. He'll be running for his life half the time there. I like Richardson a lot. Small sample size of what we saw of what he's going to be. I played the 5 games last year before the injury here. So, or a longer season, we'll see if he gets some catch up to him, what he can do. He's going to have to prove he can throw the ball to be down the field here. I'm going to buy this. All right, I want to buy on Anthony Richardson. I want him to be that guy because I want to see the excitement that he can bring. I think smart money might say go the other way because there's so many quarterbacks in that tier that hey, he could have a good year and still not finish top 7. That being said, I think he will show just like he did last year. He's going to be dynamic. I'm buying top 7.
Yeah, it reminds me so much of Cam Newton in the early days too. I'm going to sell on this. I think it's too high. I think most leagues take away points for interceptions. If that's the case, I think his numbers are going to be 20-something touchdowns, 15, 16-something interceptions. That's going to negate some stuff. Yes, he will run. Can he play an entire season? Still very questionable for me. I have him as the 9th best fantasy quarterback at the end of the season, just outside the top 7. So I'm going to go sell on that.
Back at it here on Pro Football Today, pregame with myself, Tom, Adam, and Dave. I'm trying to keep the guys awake here in Club Grid because we've got a long night ahead of us. They think I'm kidding. And I mentioned before
We're
the
not
break.
falling asleep.
No,
Yeah,
that
we're
was
good.
rude. They're keeping me awake, if I'm being honest. You see how I deflected there? But in order to keep everybody awake, in order to continue the excitement between the football conversation, the prop bets, the yardage, and then we're going to get into first half stuff before we break down our betting cards. While we talk about the wide receiving room, when you guys make your case, I need to know descriptively what your selly would be if you were to make it into the end zone. I'm using hockey terms in terms of saying selly, but you guys get the point. So I mentioned the fact that I was high up on this guy, Christian Watson. I'm going to throw it to Dave first and see what he gives me when it comes to the wide receiving room. You got Watson, who should be healthy. You got Romeo Doubs, who showed up consistently. You got Reed, who's another guy with about a 52.6% efficiency inside of the 15-yard line for his quarterback. What do you got for me when it comes to the wide receivers, at least on the Packers side?
Oh, well, I'm actually not even really looking at the Packers side. I was like looking at who's going to score a touchdown in this, and I was thinking A.J. Brown. Okay, yep, A.J. Brown. Fair enough odds, and his yardage is actually 70.5. Again, that might be a little bit high, but like anytime touchdown scorer props are good. I always got to grab a wide receiver, and you were talking about the running backs before. 1-1 is a good way to attack it if the odds to score the first touchdown are high enough. But I like AJ to get in the end zone. Green Bay, I don't really know. There's just too many things, question marks, to pinpoint one guy. But I mean, Jacobs is going to score a touchdown. Anytime touchdown scorer for Green Bay, I think has to be him. Like we were all pretty much sold on Henry last night, and I think you're going to have to really make a case for why Jacobs wouldn't make your anytime touchdown scorer card, not even, and maybe even first touchdown, at least first touchdown for the Packers. I feel like they're going to give him the ball to kind of get him going, get the team going. This is why we got him here. I mean, that's a fair price. 6-1 to be the first touchdown scorer for a running back. Okay, I'll take it. Like that's something that you could interest me in. Did you want to know a celebration?
Yep.
Like
what happens when you
what
get in
would
the
I
end
do?
zone? What does it look like?
Yeah, what would you do, Dave?
I
Let's
don't
see
know.
it. Stand up.
I scored a couple big goals in high school and college. And
was it the bow and arrow? Was it the guitar? Did you smash the plexiglass?
I used to go so crazy, like Mike Eruzione did when he scored the goal against the Russians. I used to dance. I would shuffle across the ice and do this thing with my arms. I don't know exactly
the high
how
knees and the arms.
Case, I did it all. I high stepped. I had the arms working like this. One time I threw my stick in the air. I didn't even mean to do it. Yes.
Wow. So Dave took a miracle approach to his celly.
Yes.
So he brought hockey to football, which I'm never going to hate that. I thought I was kind of giving him some hints on where to go for the Packers wide receivers to find the end zone, but it's totally fine because I love the take on Jacobs, obviously. Adam, I got to get your take on this one. Any love for the wide receiving room? Or if you want to give us a Tutty Town prop, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Packers go, I think to Dave's point, it's just really hard to handicap it. Jordan Love is obviously talented and likes to spread the ball around, but there's a reason why if you look at these wide receiver props on the Green Bay side, whether it's Watson, whether it's Reed, whether it's Dobbs, even Wicks to a certain degree, like the numbers aren't wildly different. And so that simply speaks to the fact that, and Musgrave too, throw him in. I don't know where he's going to put the ball when it comes to the end zone. And, he's capable, not that he's as likely as someone like a Jalen Hurts, but he's capable of taking it in himself, potentially, depending on where they're at. I think Jacobs is a good call. It's certainly the quote-unquote safer option if you're looking for something like that on the Green Bay side. But if I'm playing any one guy to have an anytime touchdown in this one, it's Saquon Barkley. Very similar to what happened with Derrick Henry last night. And again, as Sharapan was talking about, new guy, new offense, new scene, just look to get him involved right away. I think he's a good first touchdown investment. I think at close to even money or right around minus 120 or so. He's a solid play as an anytime touchdown. He's a guy that has already, I'm sure, found himself into a number of different parlays. I think he makes a lot of sense. As far as if he scores, what the celebration may look like, I mean, maybe they'll do the bowling thing. A bunch of guys line up, one throws the football, everybody else falls down. I mean, we like things like that. It's not the knees up on the ice like Sharapan though.
You got to bring us some miracle and some life into it, but we will get to Tom's props as well as maybe his particular selling. But we got to cut to a quick break here on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid TV.
Buy or sell, Anthony Richardson will be a top 7 fantasy quarterback this season. We're keeping this realistic here. We know that nobody would think that he'll be in the top 3, probably not even the top 5. How about top 7, George? Buy or sell?
If he stays healthy, top 5 is not out of question here at all. He's a running quarterback. We know how valuable they can be. My worry is going to be what I mentioned when we talked about the Indianapolis Colts. Boy, man, if Pittman were to go down, there's not a lot to throw. He'll be running for his life half the time there. I like Richardson a lot. Small sample size of what we saw of what he's going to be. I played the 5 games last year before the injury here. So, or a longer season, we'll see if he gets to catch up to him, what he can do. He's going to have to prove he can throw the ball. So be down the field here. I'm going to buy this. All right, I want to buy on Anthony Richardson. I want him to be that guy because I want to see the excitement that he can bring. That I think smart money might say go the other way because there's so many quarterbacks in that tier that hey, he could have a good year and still not finish top 7. That being said, I think he will show just like he did last year. He's going to be dynamic. I'm buying top 7.
Yeah, reminds me so much of Cam Newton in the early days too. I'm going to sell on this. I think it's too high. I think most leagues take away points for interceptions. If that's the case, I think his numbers are going to be 20-something touchdowns, 15, 16-something interceptions. That's going to negate some stuff. Yes, he will run. Can he play an entire season? Still very questionable for me. I have him as the 9th best fantasy quarterback at the end of the season, just outside the top 7. So I'm going to go sell on that.
SportsGrid TV, the pregame show as we get you guys hyped and ready for this Eagles versus Packers showdown. Actually, I should flip that. It's Packers versus Eagles if you're going by away team versus home team. My brothers and family would be so distraught that I ruined that. Either way, we were working through the wide receiving room. We got some guys throwing some tutties in the mix. We talked about some celebrations or sellies, as I will always stick to saying. And then we were going to Tom because we got to figure out, A, his favorite props, B, if he's got any tutty towns to throw out in the mix. And then, of course, we got to figure out what his celebration would look like in the end zone. Yes, Tom, you are going to have to give us a descriptive selly outside of Miracle and bowling pins.
Yeah, big on the wide receivers on both sides in this game. I think we're going to see them excel tonight. The Packers wide receiver room, I think, is one of the best in the league. It's it's one of the youngest in the league, but they certainly have a lot of options. For me specifically, I have 2 Christian Watson props I'm going to, and 1 Devonta Smith prop. Let's just start with Devonta Smith. I like him over 59.5 receiving yards. I'm big on Kellen Moore, the new OC coming in. Especially if we're going to see Smith playing out of the slot. Last year, he had a 22.8% target share. And we have seen Chargers receivers when Kellen Moore was the OC there, and then previously with Dallas, we've seen receivers be extremely effective in those offenses. So let's start off super easy. Devonta Smith over 59.5 receiving yards. And then let's turn to Christian Watson, over 37.5 receiving yards and over 19.5 longest reception. Last year, a little bit up and down for him dealing with the hamstring injury, but he's healthy. Last year, he had 15.9 ADOT, which is the average depth of target. And he actually led the team last year with a 29% air yard share. So he likes to get down the field. They gave Jordan Love all this money in the offseason. They didn't give him all this money, record-setting contract, in order to hand the ball off 30 or 35 times a game. They give it to him because they trust him, and they have all these awesome offensive options around him. So let's go to either Smith or Watson for a touchdown as well on top of these props. And I don't know, for a celebration, it'd have to be like, I don't know. I'm a fan of like the spinning the ball, get the fire going. Maybe everyone's sitting around around the fire, like a campfire theme, something like that.
A
Get
nice
the teammates
little
involved.
Bonnie. All right. I wasn't sure if that
Play
was
a little
also because
duck,
you
duck,
could-
goose.
Actually,
Get the whole team involved.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
musical chairs. I know you can't do the chair situation, but is that the same as like the duck, duck, goose thing?
Yeah,
All right,
pretty
I just
much,
lost
yeah.
everybody with that one. And along with the
Yeah.
kicker conversation, I tried to force these guys to give me some kicker props.
No.
Seemed like Dave
Kickers.
considered it for a second. Tom said absolutely not.
There will be
Adam,
points.
Adam is a degenerate. Can you give me anything for kickers? We saw a full second quarter yesterday of just kicker competition. If you had to throw something in a parlay and spice things up, where are you going?
Well, I'm not putting any kicker props in a parlay, that's for sure. I mean, there are some matchups, and this is not one of them tonight, where I might look at it and say, okay, I like this kicker to have multiple field goals, and that might be something that in the some books you actually can throw those into parlays. Like Caesars is one that comes to mind that lets you do that. That's something that I might consider. I'm not usually one to. I'd be more likely to go with X kicker to have multiple field goals than I would be to select a kicker's total points, let's say, because some of these numbers, especially depending on the game, I mean, a guy could be looking at like 7.5 total points because you're banking on him to have a field goal or two, and the team's going to score a few touchdowns. Some of these games that have really high totals. So, yeah, it gets a little crazy. But look, kickers can be remarkably frustrating. Which is why I mean. So many fantasy leagues, like season-long leagues, are banishing kickers. In some DFS contests, you're not going to have your kickers anymore. You're not like in the classics. You don't have them. You just have them in the showdown contest. Kickers are, it's look at Tucker. I mean, Tucker even missed a field goal last night. This stuff, the variance that exists in betting to begin with will drive you crazy. You want to start to bring in kickers into that? You know how hard it is to kick a field goal?
I thought I was going to bait you of all people into adding a kicker to the parlay. Dave, what do you say?
I had to put my listening glasses on for this because he's trying to banish kicking from the game, and kicking is a big part of football. So the listening glasses are on. I'll take them off just to say this. One of the most popular
I'm not banishing from the game. I'm banishing them from season-long fantasy football. Kickers serve no place.
Thank you.
Okay, there are probably people that would actually be like, okay, you know what, that's a good thing. Can we add another flex player or something into that? So that's fine.
Yeah.
But one of the most popular bets of standalone games is total number of field goals in a game. Where, I mean, we used to make this number all the time. Now, making the number in Sao Paulo, Brazil, is different than making the number in Acrisure Stadium in December, or in Buffalo where there's wind and cold and it's perfect. So I think 3.5 is probably what the number is tonight. Adam, sounds like you think at least one of the kickers gets 2. Do you think combined they get over 3.5 tonight?
Well, I did bet a FanDuel game special that each team would have at least 1 touchdown and 1 field goal in each half. So you do that math, and that takes you to 4 field goals, obviously, but there's a reason that special was like plus 2,100. I don't think so. Again, I think the scoring is going to be a little bit lower in this one, lower than what we saw last night. I go under the total in this game. And I know you mentioned earlier the boots on the ground in Brazil and it's a fast track and all of that stuff. And I may be wrong about this, obviously, but that's, I'm more inclined to think that these guys, between that transportation on the bus and getting, just sort of being held hostage in their hotel rooms for however long they've been there at this point in time, I think these guys are, it's going to be a little slow going. Couple that with night 1 of the season for these two teams. I'm hoping that we get a scoreless first quarter, and I can feel good about that. Now that I say it, there'll probably be multiple touchdowns, and I'll feel like crap.
Yeah, I unfortunately need you to feel like crap. Number of reasons, because the soccer field should hopefully.
Well, I need you to go on assignment to Buffalo in December, Kasey. That's what I need.
Wow. Buries me back into the snow. You see the
That's
pressure
right.
that I'm put under just because I don't nod my head? That's fine. because I'm not going to feed into it. I'm just going to continue to throw out there why I think you're just going to fail miserably. No, I'm kidding. The football field, that's where I'm going with this, and I'm hoping that the kickers can have some luck. Maybe not the second quarter luck that they had last night because that got a little boring, right? But I think that that's going to help rack some things up. You're in the perfect field to have the ball go perfectly for each kicker, but I'm not on any kicker props. And where Adam gets to redeem himself is the fact that he always brings game specials into the mix, and where Dave can probably add some illumination is first half. I've got a couple first half picks that I am excited about, but this total, it seems like Adam and Dave might go head-to-head here in opposing ways. You got a total of 24.5 in the first half alone. I'm leaning towards the Packers at least hitting over 12.5. But, Dave, I'll toss to you. What do you think? I think you got a minute 30 or less, but we'll continue the conversation later.
So last night you saw not a completely different game in the first half than the second half, but they scored quick, and then there was defensive adjustments. Tonight, I think we see a little bit of a slow start because of the travel, because of the new stuff, new field, new venue, all that stuff, and then it ramps up. So first half that's a really good number, right? 24 is immediately what I thought. The game total's 48. That's right in the middle. First thought is to lean the first half over, and then we'll make an adjustment at halftime. You guys will handle that. But first half over, I think, for Green Bay. I think Philly gets over their first half total for sure. Have them getting at least 2 touchdowns. This thing may be 14-10 at halftime. Philly.
See,
that's
you
my
said
score.
you weren't leaning with the outfit tonight, but you got me feeling good about where I was going with my first half bet, and then all of a sudden he just kind of like all of a sudden says, you know, the Eagles will do it. Maybe not your Packers and what you had in mind, but that's fine because we still have plenty to dive into. We got to get Adam's take on first halves and see what specials he's coming up with, and then more breakdowns from Tom as well. So, of course, you're going to go nowhere. You're going to stick with us here on SportsGrid TV to continue the pregame party here on Pro Football Today after this quick break. Located elsewhere.
Buy or sell, Anthony Richardson will be a top 7 fantasy quarterback this season. We're keeping this realistic here. We know that nobody would think that he'll be in the top 3, probably not even the top 5. How about top 7, George? Buy or sell?
You know, if he stays healthy, top 5 is not out of question here at all. He's a running quarterback. We know how valuable they can be. My worry is going to be what I mentioned when we talked about the Indianapolis Colts. Boy, man, if Pittman were to go down, there's not a lot to throw. He'll be running for his life half the time there. I like Richardson a lot. Small sample size of what we saw of what he's going to be. I played the 5 games last year before the injury here. So over a longer season, we'll see if he gets to catch up to him, what he can do. He's going to have to prove he can throw the ball. So be down the field here. I'm going to buy this. All right, I want to buy on Anthony Richardson. I want him to be that guy because I want to see the excitement that he can bring. I think smart money might say go the other way because there's so many quarterbacks in that tier that hey, he could have a good year and still not finish top 7. That being said, I think he will show just like he did last year. He's going to be dynamic. I'm buying top 7.
Yeah, reminds me so much of Cam Newton in the early days too. I'm going to sell on this. I think it's too high. I think most leagues take away points for interceptions. If that's the case, I think his numbers are going to be 20-something touchdowns, 15, 16-something interceptions. That's going to negate some stuff. Yes, he will run. Can he play an entire season? Still very questionable for me. I have him as the 9th best fantasy quarterback at the end of the season, just outside the top 7. So I'm going to go sell on that.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today. Pre-game for the Packers taking on the Eagles down in Brazil very shortly. And I'm hanging out with Tom Vecchio, Adam Kaufman, and Dave Sharapan. And look, it wouldn't be an exciting game if we didn't talk about some special sides. And I do know a guy who actually likes to break down some specials, or at least tell you whether or not they are worthy of adding to the parlay tally. I may have considered two. So, Adam, we've got to throw it back to you. We've got to figure out if anything is flattering now. Do not judge me harshly. You're already trying to throw people in snow. But tell me where I'm at when it comes to a potential Christian Watson and or Jaden to score the first tutty plus 600. You got Watson, who, while he was banged up last year, still came in hot with a 46.2 receiving percentage inside the 10-yard line. Now, that's kind of attractive to me. What do you say?
All right, well, first of all, I'm not just trying to throw you in the snow. What people need to understand is you have moved to Jersey from Florida. You have never experienced a true winter. And so I'm just trying to throw you into the fire, really, is what it is. Because if you can handle Buffalo in December, you can handle anything that Jersey is going to throw you during your time
Absolutely
there.
Not.
So that is the genesis of that for anyone that did not know and thought I was just trying to attack Kasey. But as far as what you're talking about with the specials, look, with the touchdowns, you know, believe it or not, as someone that bets as much as I do, and when I say that, I'm not even talking, I mean, the monetarily is another conversation. I'm just talking in volume. When I bet in volume the way that I do, touchdown props, just the variance there is so great. You know, obviously there are some guys, like if I'm ever going to throw a touchdown in a parlay, versus playing it as a straight play, it's like the Christian McCaffrey free square that we always would talk about last year, because the number got so egregious. It was like minus 250 for McCaffrey to score an anytime touchdown. I mean, that is absurd as a leg, obviously, and that's why you would include it. When you start to get near even money, or even obviously plus money, I don't need to go chasing the pots of gold at the end of the rainbow. I can play it straight. We all know parlays are fun for the people that attack them, and it's obviously a wonderful outcome if you actually hit it. But every time you're adding a leg, you're adding a layer of this isn't going to happen. And so there's a reason that parlays are not generally the smart way to gamble. We do it for fun. Playing straights, that's the way that you make your money, obviously. So if you're invested, if you want to be invested in a anytime touchdown, then sure, go for it. Go with the straight, go with the guy that you believe in the most, or one or two or three or whatever it is. If you think it's going to be a high scoring game, or you think the chalk is going to hit in a game like this, you would obviously look at Jacobs, as Dave brought up. You would look at Barkley, as I mentioned earlier. You would look at, potentially a Watson or an A.J. Brown or a Devonta Smith. You could go in a lot of hell. I mean, you could look at Jalen Hurts to run it in himself. There are so many options in this game when it comes to the names on this offense, obviously. But if we're talking parlays, guys, I got mocked, ridiculed, damn near attacked when I brought up FanDuel's new market of first quarter props. And I'll tell you what, I hit one of those parlays last night, guys. So I don't want to hear it. You can have some fun with this guy's going to have 5 yards. This guy's going to have 10 yards. Goof around, put them together, make it plus 200, plus 250, and live a little. Dave?
I didn't mock you. I actually was in on it, but instead of them actually passing Xavier Worthy the freaking ball, they have him with rushing yards. So he hit a total, but it wasn't what I needed. So as of tonight, I am going to just take a breather on that first quarter action, but I'm all in on a few specials and the first half. A lot of it working against your under total. But Dave, talk to me just a little bit here. Help bring me back into the warmth after, yes, Adam mentioned why the snow conversation came about. Tom came in dooming with the tundra that is going to be 4 months of my life coming up here soon. But
he's right,
Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love. Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love to combine for 300-plus passing yards in the first half alone.
Oh, that's a kind of a big number, Case. I don't know. I think we need a big play to get there. Yeah, I think we need a big play to get there.
Now listen, Brazil. Come on.
When you set these numbers, all right, a lot of people like to default to the over. And you see it, I've seen it for a long, long time in the books. Like, you can add 10 yards to the numbers. It should probably be around 290, 278, something like that. I feel a little better going over. So you may have a number that, no, it's not unattainable, but I would feel better if it was a little bit less. So I don't know about all this stuff about putting you in the cold. I mean, it's still September. I'm out in Vegas. It's 104 here today. Vecchio, why would you tell her before winter's actually started? Like, it's going to be, fall is beautiful. One of the things I miss about back east is the fall. You're in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. It's a nice place. Like, fall is great up there, isn't it? You go look at the leaves, Tom?
It is, but fall leaves, and then we're just stuck with winter. So I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom. I'm trying to.
I didn't know. I didn't know that Tom
level of reality.
I didn't know Tom's the winter is coming guy. I love it. This is like it's like going.
There's a level of reality
like going to the movies. Like going to the movies and say, hey, get ready for this part. This part's going to be really scary. This is going to make you. Casey's like tightened up, sitting, just waiting for winter at this point in time.
Are you kidding?
Well,
I wish that I had a blanket on my lap right now.
Know it's going to happen. It's just going like last year we spoke about like McCaffrey being the free square touchdown. We knew it was going to happen. Like we know it's going to happen. Fall is great for that window that we're there, but then it leaves.
Wow, we got to get four heads on the same page here. So while you guys have winter is coming on the mind, I actually did find a first quarter prop that I might be engaged in, and it's going to be Saquon Barkley, 10-plus rushing yards. Adam, please give me some hope here. Add some warmth to my life.
First quarter bet? Saquon?
Yes.
Absolutely. Again, they're going to look to feed him early, establish himself. Unbelievable offensive line. Play that. Play it with all the inevitability as you know, winter is coming and Thanos and the fact that I'm going to DVR the New Kids on the Block tribute on PBS tonight. There are all sorts of things that we can get excited about. I love 10 first quarter rushing yards out of Saquon Barkley.
I almost believe you, but I'm going with it anyway because why not? That's going to be the top of my Friday night fun, but we do have plenty to still get into. We got to see if there's any more value in this first half, and plus our expectations for this Packers-Eagles showdown, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us here on SportsGrid TV as Pro Football Today continues to roll you through the pregame show, action, and fun after this quick break.
Buy or sell, Anthony Richardson will be a top 7 fantasy quarterback this season. We're keeping this realistic here. We know that nobody would think that he'll be in the top 3, probably not even the top 5. How about top 7, George? Buy or sell?
You know, if he stays healthy, top 5 is not out of question at all. He's a running quarterback. We know how valuable they can be. My worry is going to be what I mentioned when we talked about the Indianapolis Colts. Boy, man, if Pittman were to go down, there's not a lot to throw. He'll be running for his life half the time there. I like Richardson a lot. Small sample size of what we saw of what he's going to be. I played the 5 games last year before the injury here. So over a longer season, we'll see if he gets to catch up to him, what he can do. He's going to have to prove he can throw the ball. He'll be down the field here. I'm going to buy this. All right, I want to buy on Anthony Richardson. I want him to be that guy because I want to see the excitement that he can bring. That I think, you know, smart money might say go the other way because there's so many quarterbacks in that tier that, hey, he could have a good year and still not finish top 7. That being said, I think he will show just like he did last year. He's going to be dynamic. I'm buying top 7.
Yeah, reminds me so much of Cam Newton in the early days too. I'm going to sell on this. I think it's too high. I think most leagues take away points for interceptions. If that's the case, I think his numbers are going to be 20-something touchdowns, 15, 16-something interceptions. That's going to negate some stuff. Yes, he will run. Can he play an entire season? Still very questionable for me. I have him as the 9th best fantasy quarterback at the end of the season, just outside the top 7. So I'm going to go sell on that.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today here on SportsGrid TV. Kasey Hudson with 3 outstanding gentlemen. I almost said Huddy and Company, but I didn't know if we were on first name, last name, what the basis was. Kevin Walsh and myself were having a conversation yesterday. Is it more intimate to call somebody by their last name or by their first name? Tom?
Ooh. Probably last.
Wow.
That's what I would say.
All right, Dave.
Well, I mean,
sorry.
I think it adds a layer of comfort, right? Like you're obviously, cool enough, close enough with someone if you can just shout out their last name. That being said, I mean, call me whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't matter to me. I have 3 daughters. I'm happy they call me, period, if they call me at all. So it doesn't matter what it says. I've been called a lot of things when I'm coaching all the girls. I've been Coach Dave, and I've been a lot of other things. So just anything you want, Case, is fine with me. Sharapan, Dave. Doesn't matter.
I'm the odd lady out on this one because I thought it was a lot more intimate to call somebody by their first name because – I mean, I feel like people, when they meet me, they hear Hudson, and then in 2 seconds, it goes from Hudson to Huddy, and then I'm just responding to all last name preferences, and then it becomes Kasey. And then it turns into Case. But I noticed that you guys have gravitated to Case even faster. Regardless, we're all friends here, but we're going to see who actually, stays friendly in the NFC. We've got the Eagles that have to make a run here, some pressure on their shoulders. They came up short last season, and then you got the Packers, who a lot of people are saying do not count them out. Do not minimize the love for Jordan Love and company. So when we're looking at this NFC race, more specifically, probably I'm going to start in the NFC East. Dave, where do you stand with the pressure and who's going to rise to the top?
Well, the Eagles didn't win a division last year. And nobody wins that division back-to-back years. So they're the favorite to win the East, and that makes perfect sense to me. I am a little more down on the Cowboys than a lot of people are, and the other 2 teams would be shocking if they compete at all for the division. So this becomes a head-to-head bet with the Cowboys, and I don't like it when it's only minus 140. I really like it. Hate to use the word love on the first night we're doing this, but anytime anybody uses something that you guys know, when you say you love something in the book, that usually doesn't bode well for the result of the bet. But I really, really liked San Francisco last year in their head-to-head bet in their division against Seattle, and I feel like this is the same thing. If the Eagles win both games against Cowboys, they're probably going to go over their season win total, and they're probably going to win a division. Does tonight make or break their season? Not as far as the division, but this will help a long way toward their season win total, Case.
All right, so I agree with that. Not dropping the L-bomb too early, but Adam, where do you stand? Love, like, or leaving it?
Well, how about another one? Loose, as in the Giants and Commanders are the loose stools of this division. We don't need to spend any time on them. It is a 2-team race, okay? It is 2 teams. It is the Eagles, it's the Cowboys, at least barring a major injury or two, and in particular to a quarterback, because even if CeeDee Lamb, God forbid, went down, Dak still has some stuff there to work with. But it's about the quarterbacks, and it's lesser than when it comes to the likes of Daniel Jones, although he looks great with the beard, and Jaden Daniels. We just don't know what he's going to be as a rookie. It's about the other 2 teams. And as Dave acknowledged already, history being what it is, I mean, it's been 2 decades since we have seen a team win consecutive NFC East titles. It just doesn't happen. So the Eagles a couple of years ago, last year it was the Cowboys' turn. Guess what? It's time for Philadelphia again. I have already wagered on Philadelphia to win this division. I do think the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs. I just think it's going to be as a wild card team. I like Philly in a bounce back a lot. People forget because of their meltdown last year. This team, it was a little smoke and mirrors, but this team was 10-1 to start last year before it absolutely imploded, and injuries were a big part of that. They're just a better team. They're a deeper team. They're a more well-rounded team. They're a better coach team. I expect the Eagles to win this division.
Tom, do you loosely or strongly stand by this? Adam's sense of this.
I strongly stand by that, and frankly, I don't have a bet on them now. But if they were to lose tonight and the Cowboys were to win against Cleveland, I think I would just buy in for the first time at the for the Eagles to win at that point. If the numbers change, if it's not minus 140 after a loss and the Cowboys happen to win, sign me up at even money for the Eagles.
Definitely something worth gauging. I agree with all of you gentlemen. I can't go against you when it comes to that. I think the Eagles did have that hot start and just kind of fell apart. But they made some offseason moves, and we're going to make some moves after this quick break to continue breaking down this pregame between the Packers and the Eagles. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on SportsGrid TV.
Buy or sell, Anthony Richardson will be a top 7 fantasy